where should I put you? Oh god. My desk is so fucking... Okay, I'm just gonna put you here. Enjoy the fucking out of focus view. Yeah, there we go. We're gonna do a few chapters of The Martian. Let's go. Chapter 18. Log entry Sol 197. Sigh, ... Just once I'd like something to go as planned, you know. Mars keeps trying to kill me. Well, Mars didn't electrocute Pathfinder, so I'll amend that. Mars and my stupidity keep trying to kill me. Okay, enough self-pity. I'm not doomed. Things will just be harder than planned. I have all I need to survive, and Hermes is still on the way. I spelled out a Morse code message using rocks. PF fried with 9 amps. Dead forever. Plan unchanged. We'll get to MAV. If I can get to the Ares 4 MAV, I'll be set. But having lost contact with NASA, I have to design my own Great Martian Winnebago to get there. What the fuck is that? For the time being, I've stopped all work on it. I don't want to continue without a plan. I'm sure NASA has all kinds of ideas, but now I have to come up with one on my own. As I mentioned, the big three, the atmospheric regulator, oxygenator, and water reclaimer, are critical components. I worked around them for my trip to Pathfinder. I used CO2 filters to regulate the atmosphere and brought enough oxygen and water for the whole trip. That won't work this time. I need the big three. Problem is, they soak up a lot of power and they have to run all day long. The rover batteries have 18 kilowatt hours of juice. The oxygenator alone uses 44.1 kilowatt hours per sol. See my problem? You know what? Kilowatt hours per sol is a pain in the ass to say. I'm gonna invent a new scientific unit name. 1 kilowatt hour per sol is... It can be anything. I suck at this. I'll call it a pirate ninja. You know, I hate Mark Watney. All told, the big three needs 69.2 pirate ninjas, most of those going to the oxygenator and the atmospheric regulator. There will be cutbacks. The easiest cutback is the water reclaimer. I have 620 liters of water. I need only 3 liters of water per sol, so my supply will last 206 sols. There's only 100 sols after I leave and before I'm picked up. Conclusion, I don't need the water reclaimer at all. I'll drink as needed and dump my waste outdoors. Yeah, that's right, Mars. You're gonna be my personal toilet. That's what you get for trying to kill me all the time. There, I saved myself 3.6 pirate ninjas. Log entry Sol 198. I've had a breakthrough with the oxygenator. I spent most of the day looking at the specs. It heats CO2 to 900 degrees Celsius, then passes it over a zirconia electrolysis cell to yank the carbon atoms off. Heating the gas is what takes most of the energy. Why is that important? Because I'm just one guy, and the oxygenator was made for 6. 1/6 the quantity of CO2 means 1/6 the energy to heat it. The spec says it draws 44.1 pirate ninjas, but all this time it's only been using 7.35 because of the reduced load. Now we're getting somewhere. Then there's the matter of the atmospheric regulator. The regulator samples the air, figures out what's wrong with it, and corrects the problem. Too much CO2 takes it out. Not enough O2 adds some. Without it, the oxygenator is worthless. The CO2 needs to be separated in order to be processed. The regulator analyzes the air with spectroscopy, then separates the gases by supercooling them. Different elements turn to liquid at different temperatures. On Earth, supercooling this much air would take ridiculous amounts of energy, but this isn't Earth. Here on Mars, supercooling is done by pumping air to a component outside the hob. The air quickly cools to the outdoor temperature, which ranges from negative 150 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees Celsius. When it's warm, additional refrigeration is used, but cold days can turn air to liquid for free. The real energy cost comes from heating it back up. If it came back to the hob unheated, I'd freeze to death. But wait, you're thinking, Mars' atmosphere isn't liquid. Why does the hob's air condense? The hob's atmosphere is over 100 times as dense, so it turns to liquid at much higher temperatures. The regulator gets the best of both worlds, literally. Problem, the regulator takes 21.5 pirate ninjas. Even adding some of the Hobbs power cells would barely power the regulator for a soul, let alone give me enough juice to drive. More thinking is required. I need to crack my neck. It's not doing well. Log entry Sol 199. I've got it. I know how to power the oxygenator and atmospheric regulator. The problem with small pressure vessels is CO2 toxicity. You can have all the oxygen in the world, but once the CO2 gets above 1%, you'll start to get drowsy. At 2%, it's like being drunk. At 5%, it's hard to stay conscious. 8% will eventually kill you. Staying alive isn't about oxygen, it's about getting rid of CO2. That means I need the regulator, but I don't need the oxygenator all the time. I just need to get CO2 out of the air and backfill with oxygen. I have 50 liters of liquid oxygen in two 25-liter tanks here in the Hob. That's 50,000 liters in gaseous form, enough to last 85 days. Not enough to see me through the rescue, but a hell of a lot. The regulator can separate the CO2 and store it in the tank, and it can add oxygen to my air from my oxygen tanks if needed. When I run low on oxygen, I can camp out for a day and use all my power to run the oxygenator on the stored CO2. That way, the oxygenator's power consumption doesn't eat up my driving juice. So I'll run the regulator all the time, but only run the oxygenator on days I dedicate to using it. Now on to the next problem. After the regulator freezes the CO2 out, the oxygen and nitrogen are still gaseous, but there's negative 75 degrees Celsius. If the regulator fed that back to my air without reheating it, I'd be a popsicle within hours. Most of the regulator power goes to heating the return air, so that doesn't happen. But I have a better way to heat it up, something NASA wouldn't consider on their most homicidal day. The RTG. Yes, the RTG. You may remember it from my exciting trip to the Pathfinder. A lovely lump of plutonium, so radioactive it gives off 1500 watts of heat, which it uses to harvest 100 watts of electricity. So what happens to the other 1400 watts? It gets irradiated out as heat. On the trip to Pathfinder, I actually had to remove insulation from the rover to vent excess heat from the damn thing. I'll be tapping that back into place because I'll need that heat to warm up the return air from the regulator. I ran the numbers. The regulator uses 790 watts to constantly reheat air. The RTG's 1400 watts is more than equal to the task, as well as keeping the rover a reasonable temperature. To test, I shut down the heaters in the regulator and noted its power consumption. After a few minutes, I turned them right back on again. Wow, that return air was cold, but I got the data I wanted. With heating, the regulator needs 21.5 Pirate Ninjas. Without it, 1 Pirate Ninja. That's right, almost all the power was going to heat. As with most of life's problems, this one can be solved by a box of pure radiation. I spent the rest of the day double checking my numbers and running more tests. It all checks out. I can do it. Log entry. Log entry Sol 200. I hauled rocks today. I needed to know what kind of power efficiency the rover/trailer will get. On the way to Pathfinder, I got 80 kilometers from 18 kilowatt hours. This time the load will be a lot heavier. I'll be towing the trailer and all the other junk. I backed the rover up to the trailer and attached the tow clamps. Easy enough. The trailer has been depressurized for some time now, so I opened both airlock doors to have a straight shot at the interior. Then I threw a bunch of rocks in. I had to guess at the weight. The heaviest thing I'll bring with me is the water, 620 kilograms worth. My freeze-dried potatoes will add another 200 kilograms. I'll probably have more solar cells than before, and maybe a battery from the Hob, plus the atmospheric regulator and oxygenator, of course. Rather than weigh all those other stuff, I took a guess and called it 1,200 kilograms. Half a cubic meter of basalt weighs about that much. So after 2 hours of brutal labor, during which I whined a lot, I got it all loaded in. Then with both batteries fully charged, I drove circles around the Hob until I drained them both. With a blistering top speed of 25 kilometers per hour, it's not an action-packed action-packed thrill ride, but I was impressed it could maintain that speed with all the extra weight. The rover has spectacular torque. But physical law is a pushy little brat, and it exacted revenge for the additional weight. I only got 57 kilometers before I was out of juice. That was 57 kilometers on level ground without having to power the regulator. Call it 50 kilometers per day to be safe. At that rate, it would take 64 days to get to Schiaparelli, but that's just the travel time. Every now and then, I'll need a break for a day and let the oxygenator use all the power. How often? After a bunch of math, I worked out that my 18 Pirate Ninja budget can power the oxygenator enough to make about 2.5 souls of O2. I'd have to stop every 2 to 3 souls to reclaim oxygen. My 64 soul trip would become 92. That's too long. I'll tear my own head off if I have to live in the rover that long. Anyways, I'm exhausted from lifting rocks and whining about lifting rocks. I think I pulled something in my back. Gotta take it easy the rest of today. Log entry Soul 201. Yeah, I definitely pulled something in my back. I woke up in agony, so I took a break from rover planning. Instead, I spent the day taking drugs and playing with radiation. That's me, for real. First, I loaded up on Vicodin for my back. Hooray for Beck's medical supplies. Then I drove out to the RTG. It was right where I left it, in a hole 4 kilometers away. Only an idiot would keep that thing near the hob. So anyways, I brought it back to the hob. Either it'll kill me or it won't. A lot of work went into making sure it doesn't break. If I can't trust NASA, who can I trust? I stored it on the roof of the rover for the trip back. That puppy really spews heat. I have some flexible plastic tubing intended for minor water reclaimer repairs. After bringing the RTG into the hob, I very carefully glued some tubing around the heat baffles. Using a funnel made from a piece of paper, I ran water through the tubing, letting it drain into a sample container. Sure enough, the water heated up. That's not really a surprise, but it's nice to see thermodynamics being well behaved. There's one tricky bit. The atmospheric regulator doesn't run constantly. The free separation speed is driven by the weather outside, so the returning frigid air doesn't come as a steady flow, and the RTG generates a constant predictable heat. It can't ramp up its output. So I'll heat water with the RTG to create a heat reservoir, then I'll make the return air bubble through it. That way I don't have to worry about when the air comes in, and I won't have to deal with sun temperature changes in the rover. When the Vicodin wore off, my back hurt even more than before. I'm gonna need to take it easy. I can't just pop pills forever. So I'm taking a few days off from heavy labor. To that end, I made a little invention just for me. I took Johansson's cot and cut out the hammock. Then I draped spare hob canvas over the frame, making a pit inside the cot with extra canvas around the edges. Once I weighed down the excess canvas with rocks, I had a watertight bathtub. It only took 100 liters to fill the shallow tub. Then I stole the pump for the water reclaimer. I hooked it up to my RTG water heater and put both the input and output lines into the tub. Yes, I know this is ridiculous, but I haven't had a bath since Earth, and my back hurts. Besides, I'm gonna spend 100 souls with the RTG anyways. A few more won't hurt. That's my rationalization, and I'm sticking with it. It took 2 hours to heat the water to 37 degrees Celsius. Once it did, I shut off the pump and got in. Why the hell didn't I think of this before? Log entry Soul 207. I spent the last week recovering from back problems. The pain wasn't bad, but there aren't any chiropractors on Mars, so I wasn't taking chances. I took hot baths twice a day, lay in my bunk a lot, and watched horrid 70s TV. I'd already seen Lewis's entire collection, but I didn't have much else to do. I was reduced to watching reruns. I got a lot of thinking done. I can make everything better by having more solar panels. The 14 panels I took to Pathfinder provided the 18 kilowatt hours that the batteries can store. When traveling, I stowed the panels on the roof. The trailer gives me room to store another 7. The The trip's power needs to be driven. Yeah, the trip's power needs will be driven by the oxygenator. It all comes down to how much power I can give that greedy little bastard in a single soul. I want to minimize how often I have days with no travel. The more juice I can give the oxygenator, the more oxygen it will liberate, and the longer I can go between those air souls. Let's get greedy. Let's say I can find a home for 14 more panels instead of 7. Not sure how to do that, but let's say I can. That would give me 36 pirate ninjas to work with, which would net be 5 souls of oxygen per air soul. I'd only have to stop once per 5 souls. That's much more reasonable. Plus, if I can arrange battery storage for the extra power, I could drive 100 kilometers per soul. Easier said than done, though. That extra 18 kilowatt hours of storage will be tough. I'll have to take 2 of the Hobbs 9 kilowatt hour fuel cells and load them on the rover or trailer. They aren't like the rover's batteries. They're not small or portable. They're light enough, but they're pretty big. I may have to attach them to the outside hull, and that would eat into my cell storage. Yeah, my solar cell storage. 100 kilometers per soul is pretty optimistic. Let's say I could make 90 kilometers per soul, stopping every 5th soul to reclaim oxygen. I'd get there in 45 souls. That would be sweet. In other news, it occurred to me that NASA is probably in a tizzy. They're watching me with satellites and haven't seen me come out of the Hob for 6 days. With my back better, it was time to drop them a line. I headed out for an EVA. This time, being very careful while lugging rocks around, I spelled out a Morse code message. Injured back, better now. Continuing rover mods. That was enough physical labor for today. I don't want to overdo it. I think I'll have a bath. I'm drinking some water. I had a fucking idea. Like the history of playing cards? I remember there was like a French suit and a German suit and like maybe Swiss something, I don't know. Wouldn't it be a fucking great idea to do like an old school like card playing game with like these old school cards? That's a fucking awesome idea. Holy shit. I kinda wanna do that. Holy shit. Holy fucking shit. Okay. Maybe. Okay. Fuck it out. Okay, I'm on. I suddenly got a huge burst of energy. Holy shit. Yeah, I don't run on coffee or like fucking energy drinks or Red Bull. I run on fucking like good fucking ideas. Also, I need to take a shit. So fucking bad. I got energy and I got energy enough to go shit. Alright, let's continue reading. Log entry soul 208. Today it was time to experiment with the panels. First, I put the Hob on low power mode. No internal lights, all non-essential systems offline, all internal heating suspended. I'd be outside most of the day anyways. Then I detached 28 panels from the solar farm and dragged them to the rover. I spent 4 hours stacking them this way and that. The poor rover looked like the Beverly Hillbillies truck. Nothing I did worked. The only way to get all 28 on the roof was to make stacks so high they'd fall off the first time I turned. If I lashed them together, they'd fall off as a unit. If I found a way to attach them perfectly to the rover would tip. I didn't even bother to test. It was obvious by looking, and I didn't want to break anything. I haven't removed the chunk of hull from the trailer yet. Half the holes are drilled, but I'm not committed to anything. If I left it in place, I could have 4 stacks of 7 cells. That would work fine. It's just 2 rovers worth of what I did for the trip to Pathfinder. Problem is, I need that opening. The regulator has to be in the pressurized area, and it's too big to fit in the unmodified rover. Plus which, the oxygenator needs to be in a pressurized area while operating. I'll only need it every 5 souls, but what would I do on that soul? No, the hole has to be there. Oh god, I really need a shit. I'm bringing you. I'm fucking bringing you. We're going max efficiency this time. Oh shit. I'm going to the basement. I need my water. I'll bring my other phone. Why not? Oh, good thing I brought my other phone. This shit's dark as shit, man. Okay, come on. Oh god. Samina, mina, waka waka, Shibao. Okay, put your damn slippers on before you flood your goddamn pants with brown. Alright, turn on the lights. It's too dark. You're gonna give me nightmares. Okay. There we go. Okay, why did I even bring my water bottle here? Like, I brought it into the bathroom. I don't have a free hand now. I'll put it in my fucking underwear. Why not? Okay. I'm putting you in my pocket. Okay, let's continue. Oh, right. You probably shouldn't be here. It's too fucking late. What a disgusting sound. Okay. As it is, I'll be able to store 21 panels. I need homes for the other 7. There's only one place they can go, to the sides of the rover and trailer. One of my earlier modifications was saddlebags draped over the rover. One side held the extra battery, stolen from what is now the trailer, while the other side was full of rocks as counterweight. I won't need the bags this time around. I can return the second battery to the trailer from whence it came. In fact, it'll save me the hustle of the mid-drive EVA I had to do every day to swap cables. When the rovers are linked up, they share resources, including electricity. I went ahead and reinstalled the trailer's battery. It took me 2 hours, but it's out of the way now. I removed the saddlebags and set them aside. They may be handy down the line. If I learned one thing from my stay at Club Mars, it's that everything can be useful. I had liberated the sides of the rover and the trailer. After staring at them for a while, I had my solution. I'll make L brackets that stick up from the undercarriages with the hooks facing up. 2 brackets per side to make a shelf. I can set panels on the shelves and lean them against the rover, and I'll lash them to the hull with homemade rope. There will be 4 shelves total, 2 on the rover and 2 on the trailer. If the brackets stick out far enough to accommodate 2 panels, I could store 8 additional panels that way. That would give me 1 more panel than I'd even planned for. Oh, he's making shelves. I'll make those brackets and install them tomorrow. I would have done it today, but it got dark and I got lazy. Log entry Sol 209. Cold night last night. The solar cells were still detached from the farm, so I had to leave the hob in low power mode. I did turn the heat back on, but I set the internal temperature to 1 degree Celsius to conserve power. Waking up the frigid weathers felt surprisingly nostalgic. I grew up in Chicago after all. But nostalgia only lasts for so long. I vowed to complete the brackets today so I can return the panels to the farm. Then I can turn the heat back on. I headed out to the MEV's landing strut array to scavenge metal for the shelves. Most of the MEV is made from composite, but the struts had to absorb the shock of landing. Metal was the way to go. I brought a strut into the hob to save myself the hassle of working in an EVA suit. It was a triangular lattice of metal strips held together with bolts. I disassembled it. Shaping the brackets involved a hammer and, well, that's it actually. Making an L doesn't take a lot of precision. I needed holes where the bolts would pass through. Fortunately, my Pathfinder murdering drill made short work of that task. I was worried it would be hard to attach the brackets to the rover's undercarriage, but it ended up being simple. The undercarriage comes right off. After some drilling and bolting, I got the brackets attached to it and then mounted it back on the rover. I repeated the process for the trailer. Important note, the undercarriage is not part of the pressure vessel. The holes I drilled won't let my air out. I tested the brackets by hitting them with rocks. The kind of sophistication is what we call interplanetary. This kind of sophistication is what we interplanetary scientists are known for. After convincing myself the brackets wouldn't break at all, after convincing myself the brackets wouldn't break at the first sign of use, I tested the new arrangement. 2 stacks of 7 solar cells on the roof of the rover, another 7 on the trailer, and then 2 per shelf. They all fit. After lashing the shells in place, I took a little drive. I did some basic acceleration and deceleration, turned in increasingly tight circles, and even the power stop. The cells didn't budge. 28 solar cells and room for 1 extra. After some well-earned fist pumping, I unloaded the cells and dragged them back to the farm. No Chicago morning for me tomorrow. I'm gonna wipe my ass, and then I'm going to, what is this, 240, page 240, okay. I see it's gonna rain today. I might go outside today. I heard like a bunch of events in like the city and whatnot were like canceled today because it's raining as shit. Back out of it. Phone's still fucking recording. Though it is on times 10. Why the fuck it is like that, I would never know. And the lighting was blown out as fuck. Alright. Damn right I'm not washing my hands. This is fucking my house, man. This is my fucking house. Technically not my house, but you know. Okay, 240. We got a blog to complete. Log entry sold. Scheiße, man. I am smiling a great smile. The smile of a man who tinkered with his car and didn't break it. I spent today removing unnecessary crap from the rover and trailer. I was pretty aggressive about it too. Space inside the pressure vessels is at a premium. The more crap I clear out of the rover, the more space there is for me. The more crap I clear out of the trailer, the more supplies I can store in it, and the less I have to store in the rover. First off, each vessel had a bench for passengers. Bye. Next, there's no reason for the trailer to have life support. The oxygen tanks, nitrogen tanks, CO2 filter assembly, all unnecessary. It'll be sharing air with the rover, which has its own copy of each of these, and it'll be carrying the regulator and oxygenator. Between the Hob components and the rover, I'll have 2 redundant life support systems. That's plenty. Then I yank the driver's seat and control panel out of the trailer. The link up with the rover is physical. The trailer doesn't do anything but get dragged along and fed air. It doesn't need controls or brains. However, I did salvage its computer. It's small and light, so I'll bring it with me. If something goes wrong with the rover's computer en route, I'll have a spare. The trailer had tons more space now. It was time for experimentation. The Hob has 12 9 kilowatt-hour batteries. They're bulky and awkward. Over 2 meters tall, a meter wide, a half meter wide, and 3/4 of a meter thick. Making them bigger makes them take less mass per kilowatt-hours of storage. Yeah, it's counterintuitive. But once NASA figured out they could increase volume to decrease mass, they were all over it. Mass is the expensive part about sending things to Mars. I detached 2 of them. As long as I return them before the end of the day, things should be fine. The Hob mostly used the batteries at night. With both of the trailer's airlock doors open, I was able to get the first battery in. After playing real-life Tetris for a while, I found a way to get the first battery out of the way enough to let the second battery in. Together, they eat up the whole front half of the trailer. If I hadn't cleared the useless crap out earlier today, I'd never have gotten them both in. The trailer's battery is in the undercarriage, but the main power line runs through the pressure vessel, so I was able to wire the Hob batteries directly in. A system check from the rover showed I had done the wiring correctly. This may all seem minor, but it's awesome. It means I can have 29 solar cells and 36 kilowatt-hours of storage. I'll be able to do my 100 kilometers per day after all. 4 days after 5 anyways. According to my calendar, the Hermes resupply probe is being launched from China in 2 days. If that screws up, the whole crew will be in serious trouble. I'm more nervous about that than anything else. I've been in mortal danger for months. I'm kinda used to it now, but I'm nervous again. Dying would suck, but my crewmates dying would be way worse, and I won't find out how the launch went until I get to Schiaparelli. Good luck, guys. Chapter 19. "Hey, Melissa," said Robert. "Am I getting through? Can you see me?" "Loud and clear, babe," said Commander Lewis. "The video link is solid. They say I have 5 minutes," Robert said. "Better than nothing," Lewis said. Floating in her quarters, she gently touched the bulkhead to stop drifting. "It's nice to see you in real time for a change." "Yeah," Robert smiled. "I can hardly notice the delay. I gotta say, I wish you were coming home." Lewis sighed. "Me too, babe. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong," Robert quickly added. "I understand why you're doing all this. Still, from a selfish point of view, I miss my wife." "Hey, are you floating?" "Huh?" Lewis said. "Oh yeah, the ship isn't spinning right now. No centripetal gravity." "Why not?" "'Cause we're docking with the Taiyang Shen in a few days. We can't spin while we dock with things." "I see," said Robert. "So how are things up on the ship? Anyone giving you problems?" "No," Lewis shook her head. "They're a good crew. I'm lucky to have them." "Oh, hey," Robert said. "I found a great addition to our collection." "Oh? What'd you get?" "An original production 8-track of ABBA's greatest hits. Still in the original packaging." Lewis widened her eyes. "Seriously? A 1976 or one of the reprints?" "1976 all the way." "Wow, good find." "I know, right?" Then a break. With a final shudder, the jetliner came to a stop at the gate. "Oh, God," said Venkat, massaging his neck. "That was the longest flight I've ever been on." Said Teddy, rubbing his eyes. "At least we don't have to go to Jiuquan till tomorrow," Venkat moaned. 14.5 hours of flying is enough for one day. "Don't get too comfortable," Teddy said. "We still have to go through customs, and we'll probably have to fill out a bunch of forms because we're U.S. government officials. It's going to be hours before we sleep." Crap. Gathering their carry-on luggage, they trudged off the plane with the rest of the weary travelers. Beijing Capital International Airport's Terminal 3 echoed with the cacophony common to huge air terminals. Venkat and Teddy moved towards the long immigration line as the Chinese citizens from their flight split off to go to a simpler point-of-entry process. As Venkat took his place in line, Teddy filed in behind him and scanned the terminal for a convenience store. Any form of caffeine would be welcome. "Excuse me, gentlemen," came a voice from behind them. They turned to see a young Chinese man wearing jeans and a polo short. "My name is Su Binbao," he said in perfect English. "I am an employee of the China National Space Administration. I will be your guide and translator during your stay in the People's Republic of China." "Nice to meet you, Mr. Su," Teddy said. "I'm Teddy Sanders, and this is Dr. Venkat Kapoor." "We need more sleep," Venkat said immediately. "Just as soon as we get through customs, please get us to our hotel." "I can do better than that, Dr. Kapoor," Su smiled. "You are official guests of the People's Republic of China. You have been pre-authorized to bypass customs. I can take you to your hotel immediately." "I love you," Venkat said. "Tell the People's Republic of China we said thanks," Teddy added. I'll pass that along," Su Bin smiled. And then another break. "Helena, my love," Vogel said to his wife, "I trust you are well?" "Yes," she said. "I'm fine, but I do miss you. Sorry." "Can't be helped," she shrugged. "How are our monkeys?" "The children are fine," she smiled. "Eliza has a crush on a new boy in her class, and Victor has been named goalkeeper for his high school team." "Excellent," Vogel said. "I hear you are at Mission Control. Was NASA unable to pipe the signal to Bremen?" "They could have," she said, "but it was easier for them to bring me to Houston, a free vacation to the United States. Who am I to turn that down?" "Well played. And how is my mother?" "As well as can be expected," Helena said. "She has her good days and bad days. She did not recognize me on my last visit. In a way, it's a blessing. She doesn't have to worry about you like I do." "She hasn't worsened?" he asked. "No, she's about the same as when you left. The doctors are sure she'll still be here when you return." "Good," he said. "I was worried I'd seen her for the last time." "Alex," Helena said, "will you be safe?" As safe as we can be," he said. "The ship is in perfect condition, and after receiving the Taiyang Shen, we will have all the supplies we need for the remainder of the journey. Be careful." "I will, my love," Vogel promised. And then there's another break. "Welcome to Jiuquan," Guoming said. "I hope your flight was smooth." Su Bin translated Guoming's words as Teddy took the second best seat in the observation room. He looked through the glass to Jiuquan's Mission Control Center. It was remarkably similar to Houston's, though Teddy couldn't read any of the Chinese text on the big screens. "Yes, thank you," Teddy said. "The hospitality of your people has been wonderful. The private jet you arranged to bring us here was a nice touch." "My people have enjoyed working with your advanced team," Guoming said. "The last month has been very interesting. Attaching an American probe to a Chinese booster, I believe this is the first time it's ever been done." "It just goes to show," Teddy said. "Love of science is universal across all cultures." Hehehe. "Teddy has been PR trained." Guoming nodded. "My people have especially commented on the work ethic of your man, Mitch Henderson. He is very dedicated." "He's a pain in the ass," Teddy said. Su Bin paused before translating, but pressed on. Guoming laughed. "You can say that," he said. "I can't." Then there's a break. So explain it again, Beck's sister Amy said. Why do you have to do an EVA? I probably don't, Beck explained. I just need to be ready to. Why? In case the probe can't dock with us. If something goes wrong, it will be my job to go out and grab it. Can't you just move Hermes to dock with it? No way, Beck said. Hermes is huge. It's not made for fine maneuvering control. Why does it have to be you? 'Cause I'm the EVA specialist. But I thought you were the doctor. I am, Beck said. Everyone has multiple roles. I'm the doctor, the biologist, and the EVA specialist. Commander Lewis is a geologist. Johansson is the SysOp and reactor tech, and so on. How about that good-looking guy, Martinez? Amy asked. What does he do? He pilots the MDV and MAV, Beck said. He's also married with a kid, you lecherous homewrecker. Ah, well. What about Watney? What did he do? He's our botanist and engineer, and don't talk about him in the past tense. Engineer? Like Scotty? Kind of, Beck said. He fixes stuff. I bet that's coming in handy now. Yeah, no kidding. And there's another break. There's a lot of breaks here. Why are we like going on sentimental shits here? I feel like something's gonna go horribly wrong and some part of the crew's gonna die. The Chinese had arranged a small conference room for the Americans to work in. The cramped conditions were luxurious by Zhu Quan standards. Venkat was working on budget spreadsheets when Mitch came in, so he was glad for the interruption. They're a weird bunch, these Chinese nerds, Mitch said, collapsing into a chair, but they make a good booster. Good, Venkat said. How's the linkage between the booster and our probe? It all checks out, Mitch said. JPL followed the specs perfectly. It fits like a glove. Any concerns or reservations? Venkat asked. Yeah, I'm concerned about what I ate last night. I think it had an eyeball in it. I'm sure there wasn't an eyeball. The engineers here made it for me special, Mitch said. There may have been an eyeball, Venkat said. They hate you. Why? 'Cause you're a jerk, Mitch, Venkat said. A total jerk to everyone. Fair enough. So long as the probe gets to Hermes, they can burn me in effigy for all I care. And then another break. Wave to Daddy, Marissa said, waving David's hand at the camera. Wave to Daddy. He's too young to know what's going on, Martinez said. Just think of the playground cred he'll have later in life, she said. My dad went to Mars. What did your dad do? Yeah, I'm pretty awesome, he agreed. Marissa continued to wave David's hand at the camera. David was more interested in his other hand, which was actively engaged in picking his nose. So, Martinez said, you're mad. You can tell? Marissa asked. I try to hide it. We've been together since we were 15. I know when you're mad. You volunteered to extend the mission 533 days, she said, jackass. Yeah, Martinez said. I'd figured that'd be the reason. Your son will be in kindergarten when you get back. He won't have any memories of you. I know, Martinez said. I have to wait another 533 days to get laid. What? So do I, he said defensively. I have to worry about you that whole time, she added. Yeah, he said. Sorry. She took a deep breath. We'll get past it. We'll get past it, he agreed. Okay, whatevs. Here is another break. Welcome to CNN's Mark Watney Report. Today we have the Director of Mars Operations, Venkat Kapoor. He's speaking to us live via satellite from China. Dr. Kapoor, thank you for joining us. Happy to do it, Venkat said. So, Dr. Kapoor, tell us about Tai Yong-shen. Why go to China to launch a probe? Why not launch it from the US? Hermes isn't going to orbit Earth, Venkat said. It's just passing by on its way to Mars, and its velocity is huge. We need a booster capable of not only escaping Earth's gravity, but matching Hermes' current velocity. Only the Tai Yong-shen has enough power to do that. Tell us about the probe itself. It was a rush job, Venkat said. JPL only had 30 days to put it together. They had to be as safe and efficient as they could. It's basically a shell full of food and other supplies, but it has a standard satellite thruster package for maneuvering. And that's enough to fly to Hermes? The Taiyang Shen will send it to Hermes. The thrusters are for fine control and docking. And JPL didn't have time to make a guidance system, so it will be remote controlled by a human pilot. Who will be controlling it? Kathy asked. The Ares 3 pilot, Major Rick Martinez. As the probe approaches Hermes, he will take over and guide it to the docking port. And what if there's a problem? Hermes will have their EVA specialist, Dr. Chris Beck, suited up and ready the whole time. If necessary, he will literally grab the probe with his hands and drag it to the docking port. Sounds kind of unscientific, Kathy laughed. You want unscientific? Venkat smiled. If the probe can't attach to the docking port for some reason, Beck will open the probe and carry its contents to the airlock. Like bringing in the groceries? Kathy asked. Exactly like that, Venkat said, and we estimate it would take her 4 trips back and forth. But that's all an edge case. We don't anticipate any problems with the docking process. Sounds like you're covering all your bases, Kathy smiled. We have to, Venkat said. If they don't get those supplies, well, they need those supplies. Thanks for taking the time to answer our questions, Kathy said. Always a pleasure, Kathy. And then there's another break. Johansson's father fidgeted in the chair, unsure of what to say. After a moment, he pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and mopped sweat from his balding head. What if the probe doesn't get to you? He asked. Try not to think about that, Johansson said. Your mother is so worried she couldn't even come. I'm sorry, Johansson mumbled, looking down. She can't eat, she can't sleep, she feels sick all the time. I'm not much better. How can they make you do all this? They're not making me do it, Dad. I volunteered. Why would you do that to your mother? He demanded. Sorry, Johansson mumbled. Watney's my crewmate. I can't just let him die. He sighed. I wish we'd raised you to be more selfish. She chuckled quietly. How did I end up in this situation? I'm the district sales manager of a napkin factory. Why is my daughter in space? Johansson shrugged. You were always scientifically minded, he said. It was great. Straight A student, hanging around nerdy guys too scared to try anything. No wild side at all. You were every father's dream daughter. Thanks, Dad. But then you got on a giant bomb that blasted you to Mars, and I mean that literally. Technically, she corrected, the booster only took me into orbit. It was the nuclear-powered ion engine that took me to Mars. Oh, much better. Dad, I'll be all right. Tell Mom I'll be all right. What good will that do? He said. She's going to be tied up in knots until you're back home. I know, Johansson mumbled, but what? I won't die. I really won't, even if everything goes wrong. What? What do you mean? Johansson furrowed her brow. Just tell Mom I won't die. How? I don't understand. I don't want to get into how, Johansson said. Look, he said, leaning into the camera, I've already respected your privacy and independence. I never tried to pry into your life, never tried to control you. I've been really good about that, right? Yeah. So in exchange for a lifetime of staying out of your business, let me just nose in this once. What are you not telling me? She fell silent for several seconds. Finally, she said, They have a plan. Who? They always have a plan, she said. They work out everything in advance. What plan? They picked me to survive. I'm youngest. I have the skills necessary to get home alive. I'm the smallest and need the least food. What happens if the probe fails, Beth? Her father asked. Everyone will die but me, she said. They'd all take pills and die. They'll do it the right way so they don't use up any food. Commander Lewis picked me to be the survivor. She told me about it yesterday. I don't think NASA knows about it. And the supplies would last until you got back to Earth. No, she said. We have enough food left to feed 6 people for a month. If I was the only one, it would last 6 months. With a reduced diet, I could stretch it to 9. It'll be 17 months before I get back. So how would you survive? So the supplies wouldn't be the only source of food, she said. He widened his eyes. Oh my God. Just tell Mom the supplies would last, okay? Cannibalism. Woohoo. and then there's a break. American and Chinese engineers cheered together at Jiuquan Mission Control. The main screen showed Taiyong-Shen's contrail wafting in the chilly Gobi sky. The ship, no longer visible to the naked eye, pressed onwards towards orbit. Its deafening roar dwindled to a distant rumbling thunder. "Perfect launch," Venkat exclaimed. "Of course," said Zhu Tao. "You guys really came through for us," Venkat said, "and we're grateful." "Naturally. And hey, you guys get a seat on Ares 5. Everyone wins." Venkat looked at Zhu Tao sideways. "You don't seem too happy." "I spent 4 years working on Taiyong-Shen," he said. "So did countless other researchers, scientists, and engineers. Everyone poured their souls into construction while I waged a constant political battle to maintain funding. In the end, we built a beautiful probe, the largest, sturdiest unmanned probe in history, and now it's sitting in a warehouse. It'll never fly. The State Council won't fund another booster like that." He turned to Venkat. "It could have been a lasting legacy of scientific research. Now it's a delivery run. We'll get a Chinese astronaut on Mars, but what science will he bring back that some other astronaut couldn't have? This operation is a net loss for mankind's knowledge." "Well," Venkat said cautiously, "it's a net gain for Mark Watney." Zhu Tao said. Wow, what a pessimist. What a fucking pessimist. Last break. "Distance 61 meters, velocity 2.3 meters per second, Johansson said. "No problem," Martinez said, his eyes glued to his screens. One showed the camera feed from docking port A, the other a constant feed of the probe's telemetry. Lewis floated behind Johansson's and Martinez's stations. Beck's voice came with the radio. Visual contact. He stood in airlock 3 via magnetic boots, fully suited up with the outer door open. The bulky safer unit on his back would allow him free motion in space, should need arise. An attached tether led to a spool on the wall. "Vogel," Lewis said into her headset, "you in position?" Vogel stood in the still pressurized airlock 2, suited up save his helmet. "Yeah, in position and ready," he replied. He was the emergency EVA if Beck needed rescue. "All right, Martinez," Lewis said. "Bring it in." "Aye, Commander." "Distance 43 meters, velocity 2.3 meters per second, Johansson called out. "All stats nominal," Martinez reported. "Slight rotation in the probe," Johansson said. Relative rotational velocity is 0.05 revolutions per second." "Anything under 0.3 is fine," Martinez said. "The capture system can deal with it." "Probe is well within manual recovery range," Beck reported. "Copy," Lewis said. "Distance 22 meters, velocity 2.3 meters per second, Johansson said. "Angle is good." Slowing her down a little, Martinez said, sending instructions to the probe. "Velocity 1.8, 1.3, Johansson reported. 0.9, stable at 0.9 meters per second. "Range?" Martinez asked. 12 meters, Johansson replied. "Velocity steady at 0.9 meters per second. "Angle?" "Angle is good." "Then we're in line for auto capture," Martinez said. "Come to Papa." The probe drifted gently to the docking port. Its capture boom, a long metal triangle, entered the port's funnel, scraping slightly along the edge. Once it reached the port's retractor mechanism, the automatic system clamped onto the boom and pulled it in, aligning and orienting the probe automatically. After several loud clanks echoed through the ship, the computer reported success. "Docking complete," Martinez said. "Seal is tight," Johansson said. "Beck," Lewis said, "your services won't be needed." "Roger that, Commander," Beck said, closing airlock. "Vogel, return to interior," she ordered. "Copy, Commander," he said. "Airlock pressure to 100%. Beck reported. "Re-entering ship. I'm back in." "Also inside," Vogel said. Lewis pressed a button to her headset. Jiuquan, probe docking complete. No complications." Mitch's voice came over the comm. "Glad to hear it, Hermes. Report status of all supplies once you get them on board and inspected." "Roger, Jiuquan," Lewis said. Taking off her helmet, she turned to Martinez and Johansson. "Unload the probe and stow the supplies. I'm going to help Beck and Vogel desuit." Martinez and Johansson floated down the hall towards docking port A. "So," he said, "who would you have eaten first?" She glared at him. "'Cause I think I'd be tastiest," he continued, flexing his arm. "Look at that, good solid muscle there." You're not funny. I'm free range, you know, corn-fed. She shook her head and accelerated down the hall. Come on, I thought you liked Mexican. Not listening, she called back. Oh, it's Martinez, not Vogel. Interesting. Cool beans. Okay. That's 2 chapters. I think that'll be enough for at least this time. I might do another blog later today.